Okay, I'm calling the meeting to order. Welcome to our first meeting of the fiscal year for the Developmental Disabilities Committee. We are altering the agenda a little bit so that Lucy Nell from the ARC can present her legislative report, and then we will move into public comments. So at that, Lucy, can you give us a legislative update of what has happened and hasn't?
Sure, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm sorry for the schedule issues today. There's a lot going on with my family. So the General Assembly did finally complete a budget, and for perspective, this is what we had expected them to do in February. So the result was to keep the state government open after July 1, when we were in a new fiscal year. They passed what's called the skinny budget, meaning enough to fund the things that had to be funded. But the overall budget and plan for the rest of the year didn't go through. And that matters because usually when the state comes to a budget, the governor introduces a budget, the House makes some adjustments, the Senate makes some adjustments, and then they take the House and the Senate adjustments and put them together. That didn't happen this year. The House made suggestions and the Senate made suggestions, but there was such a lag time between when that happened in February and now that they essentially started over and worked from this tiny, skinny budget that they passed in late June to keep the government open. The result was a lot of DD services and wording that had been in both the House and the Senate budget, which usually means they'll absolutely be in the final budget, disappeared. So there was a huge loss of some what had been nearly assured victories this year. With that said, 500 new DD waivers were added to the budget for a total of 1,100 that are coming out this year. While the General Assembly was not passing a budget, I guess I'll say that nicely, the waiting list topped 15,000 people. So again, 1,100 waivers is great news and a great step forward, but for a waiting list of 15,000 is a relatively small drop in the bucket. There were a few rate increases that had been in both the House and the Senate budgets, but the only one that ended up going through is a 5% increase for personal care. So that would be the one-to-one consumer or agency directed caregivers. And it's the same rate and service for attendant care and respite care and companion care. You may enter them a little bit differently on the timesheets, but the pay rate is the same, and they'll all be going up 5%, which is certainly important for our significantly underpaid caregivers. And beyond that, all of the language and all of the funding and all of the things that I had been hoped and been tracking in the budget have disappeared, including a lot of things, like I said, that seemed like they would certainly be happening. So I know that ARCs and our partner agencies are already scrambling and trying to think about how to strategize for 2024, since we aren't any bigger than we were before, but now we're going to try and fix the 2023 issues and move things forward for 2024 all at once, which is a lot to do. Yeah. So in that spirit, I would really encourage people, if they're able, to come to our upcoming candidate forums. They're going to be held in September and October. The first one is September 25th. All of our Arlington candidates, because Arlington has a few uncontested races, are in the same evening. But by all means, please sign up for as many as you can, spread the word. It's a webinar, so if you just turn it on while you're making dinner, that's fine with us. But the more people that legislators see signed up and trying to attend, the more it speaks to them that they shouldn't have ignored DD issues, historically speaking, or in this year's budget. And we want to get things rectified for the future. So I have sent all of the candidates questions in advance, but it's common when I ask them to take what's a personal question and combine it with the substance of my question. So instead of my generic, the waiting list is 15,000 people long question saying, Sherry, I'll borrow Pete for a second. Pete had to wait 15 years for a waiver or whatever it is. What do we say to the next person who's waiting because the waiting list is 15,000 long? So please come, please chat, please send questions, please encourage other folks to do so. It's our best opportunity at this point in the legislative season, if you will, to get a little bit of movement on that. And as a reminder, all of the General Assembly is up for election. And a lot of our incumbents have either stepped down to retire, or a number in this area lost primaries. So it's going to be a very different General Assembly who needs a lot of education on disability issues. The next thing I'll add, kind of moving off General Assembly toward DBHDS and Medicaid, is that parents are still allowed to be paid caregivers to minors. That was a COVID flexibility. But the COVID flexibilities for how that's done are ending in November, or as soon as the new rules are approved. So no earlier than November, but possibly a little bit later. And that's going to mean if you know any parents who are being paid caregivers to minors, they're going to be limited in the number of hours that they can be paid to work for their own children to 40 hours a week. They're going to be clocking in and out on electronic timesheets. If one parent in the household, I'll use a mom as an example, is the paid caregiver, dad will no longer be able to be the employer of record who signs off on timesheets. So they're going to have someone outside the household do that. I understand that's a real hardship for a lot of families. So we are trying to give people as much warning as possible. They can start thinking through those things, but because we're waiting on those final rules to come out, I don't have like a really great fact sheet or anything to point to. I'm just directing people back to the application Virginia put in to change the rules. And the last thing I'll note is there's a strong and growing group of parents who have had trouble getting companion care for their adult children with disabilities. In some cases, those adult children lived in group homes, in some sponsored residential homes, and in some the family home. But these are people who historically had been able to get companion care and are really struggling now. I'm bringing this up to say they're trying to recruit other families. So if you or others are in this same boat and would like to join on that quest with them, I'm more than happy to connect you. And they're meeting on Zoom semi-regularly and talking with a number of partners about how to try and change this in the state. The state updates. Oh yeah, Justin.
Is this a statewide or is this a Northern Virginia group?
It is statewide, and all rules will be statewide about everything that's changing. The ARC of Northern Virginia moved offices only about a mile to the opposite side of the Mosaic District from where we were before, but we're having an open house coming up soon. And final reminders from the ARC is we have a ton of always free webinars and workshops coming up, one on inclusion and hurtful words, waivers, special free consults with a special education attorney, some on supported decision making, which will touch with some of the guardianship information, and some on emergency planning. So as we are looking at natural disasters rising and how we as a disability community make plans that reflect our community, we have some great speakers who are coming later this month to talk about that. And I'll put the link to the workshops in the chat. For those who don't know, my son just got out of 9 days in the hospital and is upstairs. So I'm going to have to jump out of this meeting after I take questions, but thank you all very much for your patience, Lucia in particular, who has gone above and beyond for our family. But if anyone ever needs me, I spend all day and most nights on email, so you can get me anytime.
Thank you, Lucy. Any quick questions? Okay.
Actually,
Joe.
yeah. So all of the legislative priorities of
I think she did.
Okay. I guess we'll move on to the beginning of our agenda, welcome and introductions. So I'd like to thank those of you who are still trudging and coming all the way into an in-person meeting. And so if you could please introduce yourselves, beginning with Joe.
I'm Bertram McGann, member of the DD committee, in fact, co-chair with Chair.
And CSB.
And CSB.
Donna Budway, I'm a member of the DD committee.
LaVoice Reed, and I'm on staff.
Lynn Cosma, a parent and member of the DD.
Sherry Takamato, parent of a person with a developmental disability and co-chair of this committee with Bertram, and also on the CSB.
Del Bria, Wilson staff, on staff.
It works.
Okay. Community and Workforce Development Specialist.
Good afternoon, I'm Tom Daly on staff, and I'm also the scribe for this committee meeting.
Okay, and then we're going to move to folks who are on the computer, and I'm just going to go down the list as I see them. First is Barbara Jones, who's also a member of this committee.
He's muted.
You're muted, Barbara.
Sorry. Yes, I'm a member of the committee and I'm also a parent of a 36-year-old son with a disability.
Then we have Andrea Blackman.
Yes, I am with ServiceSource and a program manager, and I work with the Arlington Weavers.
Carol?
Carol Scally, former member and chair of the committee and parent.
Ellen Bailey?
Yes, I'm Ellen Bailey. I'm the parent of a 22-year-old son who just started in a day program in Alexandria, but we live in Arlington.
Welcome, welcome. Joy?
Hi, my name is Joy Haley. I'm a transition coordinator with Arlington Public Schools.
Lucia?
Hi, Lucia Claster, parent and member of the committee.
Maimuna?
Hi, Maimuna Duckenfield, Division Director for Aging and Disability Services.
Melissa?
Hi, Melissa Gislerum, Employment, Habilitation, and Transportation Contract Manager.
Millie?
Hi, I'm Millie Thomas. I'm a member and parent of a 25-year-old with a disability.
Nancy?
Hi, I'm Nancy Tishman, the parent of a 47-year-old with a disability.
Okay, is there anyone we missed?
Deborah, I thought I saw Deborah earlier.
I don't see her currently online. Okay. Well, welcome everyone, and I'm wondering, do we have any public comment? Yes, Carol?
Yeah, I don't think I'm muted. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I am commenting for a couple of reasons. One is to report on a little outreach that I did to families of young people who are transitioning into DD services. And I did this because I have been anticipating that with the county board directive of a few years ago and the potential addition of permanent capacity and day unemployment programs, that probably, and I was correct in this assumption, these families were not really aware of the fact that the county is, looking to establish some additional capacity. And I thought they should, because they really are the ones who are most likely to be affected by this.
Carol, you're frozen. Carol, you're frozen.
Yeah.
Someone, do you want me to text her?
I can text her. Yeah, I think she may have to check. Yeah.
She usually keeps it pretty cool.
Okay, am I back?
Okay.
Yes, you're back.
So you gave us.
Well, you get the general idea. So there were 7 families, and I have a written summary, and I didn't decide to do this until the last minute. I sent one to LaVoice and one to Sherry and one to Tom. So I don't know if it's possible for one of you to screen share this. But if not, I'll just run through it, and then I will submit it for the public comment record for the minutes. there were 7 families, and we have eliminated their identifying information to protect their confidentiality, but you can see their situations. One was placed in the best program in Alexandria, and that seemed like it was probably going to be a satisfactory placement. One was placed in an out-of-county program that required a pretty long commute, an hour and 45 minutes in the afternoon on motive care. This family would like to be in Arlington. One was on the list for the new employment training program. I know that's not going to open for another few months. One had a very part-time job at Jake's Ice Cream, was unable to get job coaching for a second employment, and wants a community-based program that provides engagement on the other days. One visited 6 placements and was assessed at Woodmont but not selected. This family was seems to be in pretty dire straits. And a couple, one had just begun to look, and one is still in the final year at the Arlington Public Schools. So it gives you a sort of a flavor. These were not families who were interested in competitive integrated employment, and I'll just summarize the rest. But they were very interested in continuing education, skill building, meaningful engagement in community activities, by which I mean out of the building several times a week. A couple were interested in having more physical activity, and a lot of interest in volunteer type activities. They want their young adults to stay in Arlington, and they would like to have more program options available so they don't need to travel outside the county. They really wanted a kind of a smaller program where they had a sense of belonging. Some had come out of the PEP program and they felt that in PEP, and I think maybe did not feel that visiting the options that they were being offered. The biggest need that they expressed was for information. I think they would really like to have a written guide to all programs, regardless of whether there are openings in them or not, so that they kind of know what the full menu is. And they felt they didn't have that. And more than one of them expressed a strong interest in getting more information. I think they felt that they were kind of relying on the grapevine and other parents for information that they really would like to get from the county. So that's a summary of the meeting, and I think we're going to continue to do this outreach because, again, of the upcoming potential for program changes, although I think that may have changed a little bit with the new RFP for the renewal of the Woodmont program, which seems to be including some additional programs and additional capacity. I was kind of surprised to see this. It wasn't mentioned at all at the July DD meeting, I don't think, and it seems to be on a pretty fast track. And I know it's going to be covered later. I did have a chance to read it. I only got it today. And my reading of it is that it does not include, the kinds of hybrid things that parents were interested in a few years ago when the public consulting group did their focus groups. It seems to be, more a continuation of sort of the traditional day program. But The Voice, I'm sure, will have more to say about that. The thing that I wanted to mention, and the question that I hope LaVoice can answer when she does her updates on this, is the additional capacity appeared to be 18 plus 21 or 39. That was the capacity that seems to be covered in the RFP. There are 15 spaces in a Woodmont community-based program. I don't know if that's already operating. I know that's been mentioned before. But my question is whether these numbers now are to be interpreted as satisfying the county board directive that we would have day and employment program capacity in Arlington to meet both current needs and 5-year growth. And if so, how the numbers, or if this is just kind of an interim additional sort of down payment on what those needs are. And the reason, one of the big reasons that I'm concerned about this, and I mentioned it in my May public comment, is that of the adults that we have receiving active case management, pre-pandemic in FY 2019, 72% of them were in habilitation or day programs. That same data set, which is part of the county budget, you can find it online. You probably can't find it, but I could point you to it. Indicates that for FY 24, we're expecting only 49% of active adults to be in day programs. The number of active adult clients has gone up significantly, but the number in habilitation programs has gone down. So my question, and actually one of the motivations for doing this outreach, is to try to figure out whether we are really starting at zero and only need to add for future growth of graduates coming out of the school system, or whether we're operating currently at a net deficit because parents are not able to find the kinds of programs and options that they need, and whether we need to do some more analysis around what that deficit is and add that to the additional capacity that we are looking for. So that's kind of the central question that I've been grappling with, and then I'm hoping that we can get a little more clarity on maybe later on in this meeting. So I will submit this. I have some process questions. Most significantly, the CSB, full CSB recently passed a policy that said that RFPs scope of work would be sent to the committees for suggestions and review before they go out. That certainly appears not to have happened in this case. So, you know, I don't know where that leaves the policy, or if, you know, if it's just being disregarded, and there were some other process questions having to do with this also, but that is probably not the most important thing. The most important thing is the content and substance of what is really being planned. So thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Carol. And I see that Moira Saicedo has joined us, and we have a new member, Joe, who's joined us. Millie?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just unraise my hand then. I wanted to, and this is still public comment period, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. I wanted to let everyone know I do have a job opportunity for competitive integrative employment for somebody with a disability. Disabled vets encouraged to apply in particular. It's in Reston, Virginia, and no experience required, and we will train. We will post it on Indeed. And I can share it to you, Sherry, when we're ready. I don't know how exactly to do it. I've never done this before to my committee, but it is a job opportunity. There are specific requirements to be able to fulfill the job, but it is competitive integrative employment, and we will train.
What would the person be doing?
It's a medical assistant position and OSHA compliance assistant. It's a combined position. So, but I think somebody with a, disability could do it. We are going to put it onto Indeed.com and put disabled vets encouraged to apply. So, but we will train, but we need somebody with some interpersonal skills required. So, we are willing to hire within Arlington too. I'm a little bit of a haul away. I'm in Reston, Virginia, but I wanted to make sure that the committee knew that there is a job opportunity available, and we're looking for exactly kind of the right fit person, because we have a family environment and we need that in family environment to remain, because we're such a small little tiny baby practice that it's being swallowed up by private equity all around us. So we can do it, but it's got to be exactly the right fit person. But I wanted to make sure that my committee, my CSB community knew about it first. I haven't even posted the job yet.
Thank you, Millie.
Okay, you're welcome. And you can contact me directly if you have any questions, but I will post it to the wider community once we have combined the positions.
Sherry, can you ask her if she can put her email address in the chat just in case anyone wants to reach her?
Sure. Can you put your email address in the chat in case anyone wants to reach you?
Well, I'm going to put my professional one in then because that's the doc.
Whatever email, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's DR, which is just D.
Put it in the chat, please.
Okay, sure. No problem. Okay.
Is there anyone else who has public comment today? Then if that,
Sherry, for purposes of the minutes, maybe put that.
Okay, can you do that, Tom? Please. And then next on the agenda, we will have the video that Voice of America put out featuring our stomping ground and the Arlington Weeks. I'm trying to do that to give you a couple of extra minutes.
Voice of America or volunteers?
Volunteers.
Are we ready?
Yes.
We really believe that anybody can be helped with the right supports and with the right community around them and with the affordability figured out, with people that can come in to make those other support needs.
If you see someone at risk of falling onto the tracks, please get help immediately. Tell a police officer or an MTA employee. Be safe and happy Autism Awareness Month.
Friday Chaos, awesome. Thank you, Emma.
Our stomping ground came to be because there were a group of parents that had children with different disabilities, and as they were aging out, they recognized that there had to be some plan. So we are very proud of the idea that we are housing people that traditionally would have been either institutionalized or in group homes.
Okay, Lisa, do you want to share yours? And what is your title, yours, Lisa?
Happy Thoughts with Friends at Gilliam.
Happy Thoughts with Friends at Gilliam. Awesome. We'll do a little celebration. And then we have Juan. Juan, what is your title?
Say it loud. Say it loud. What is it?
Happy together.
Okay, light.
Happy together.
Happy together. Awesome. Thank you, Meryl. Did you want to hold that up? Oh, yeah. Thank you, guys. I thank all of you for sharing this space together. We'll send that around.
The meaning was behind mine was that even though it's a mess, it's pretty.
How's that sound?
And it's just, and even though it may look like that, anything can be art.
And we're really not saying there is anybody that cannot be housed. With the right supports and with the right community around them and with the affordability figured out, with people that can come in to make those other support needs, we really believe that anybody can be housed. And you can see from the friends you've met in our community, our friend Juan, he spells to communicate. You know, how can someone who spells to communicate live alone? What happens if there's an emergency in the building? How does he get his needs met? He is thriving at his building. Our friend Paul actually did have his own apartment, but he was very isolated.
All right, come on in. What I like about living here is that I get to be with such wonderful people like Donna and meet such cool people like Juan and like Ben and Emma and everybody. And the community is so inclusive because there's so much more to do here than there was in Falls Church. And it's such an open community, a welcoming community of people here for like people with disabilities. And, you know, over there, I didn't do anything and I didn't know anybody. I didn't know any neighbors. I didn't So I just spent my time inside. I was a couch potato. Here, I'm welcomed with open arms. And I feel like that is something I should express, and that's why I like it here. I watch TV, I play on my tablet, I play video games, I'm a gamer at heart. So I do a lot of things that keep me busy. I feel like I have grown and matured a lot more since moving to Stomping Grounds, moving to Gilliam Place, and becoming part of this community. And after moving here, I was taught to be respectful, to be a good person, and to respect people and to respect myself. And I think that they've helped me with that. And I've grown to, just be a better person.
Ben is the same way. Again, an individual that doesn't talk, we just kind of relegate them to where they need to be segregated so they can be safe. This idea of safety and people with disability just having to be safe. And it really rubs against an idea that we love and that we pursue in the disability world. We hear it from self-advocates, is that they deserve the dignity of risk. There is risk of moving outside of the family home. There is risk of moving outside of the group home. But what is there for them to experience, to live their fullest life, to have friends, to be able to have more say in the direction of their lives? I really think we can make the argument that that is going to be a greater chance of that happening outside of a group home or outside of the family home. And these are risks. I'm not saying there aren't risks, but it is that dignity of risk. No, I know. And every building's going to have a different person.
Yeah, so Benjamin is a resident of Gilliam Place, which is one of the OSG properties. He's been there for maybe 3 years, one of the first of these young adults to move in. As Ben said, never in my wildest dream did I think this would happen. My husband Stephen and I assumed Ben would be living with us the rest of our lives at least, and then would live with siblings. So when Ben was able to communicate a preference to live independently in his own apartment, we were floored. And we weren't sure about how to make this happen. And thanks to the advocacy and leadership of OSG, demonstrating to parents that this capacity exists, the facilities exist, and OSG brings the programs and helps build a community which knits this endeavor together. You have horror stories of young adults moving into apartments, there's no furniture, they have no community, they're just sitting there in tears. OSG kind of wraps this thing up in a bow and makes certain that the resources and the programs and the services are there. When you prove to yourself that you can do something, it manifests itself in so many ways, including, in increased confidence, increased initiative. He certainly seems happy when he has an opportunity. He says, I love my life. And what more can a parent ask?
Lisa spent many years in a group home, and it was a beautiful group home, and I'm sure she felt safe and loved, but she didn't have the type of control of her life that she now has. Like if Lisa wants to go on a walk at the end of the day, she takes her walker, she looks at the phone to see, is there a group going out there, and she will go out and take advantage of having friends in a community that knows her. She also has all these opportunities that are available to her in her building. She loves the art therapy. She loves, we'll do group dinners, get transportation now to her job site with the weaving. All of that is now available to her because she can access it.
Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry. I wasn't thinking right. So I'm getting ready to go to work. Would you like to say something about the kitty cat pictures I made?
You did a good job with them.
Yeah.
Your wall of art.
Yes, you ready to roll? Ready to roll, Michelle?
Well, Lisa, if you wanted me to take you,
Yeah.
taking you, okay?
Okay, Miss Beautiful.
All right, ready?
I'm worried about my meeting. I'm worried about my social life.
Your meeting's gonna be
His car is up here. Good morning, Janet. So here I go. Thank you. This is Peter, and he's really helpful. He's really nice. Here I come. And this is one of the bags I did, right? Right here. And so everything's cool with me, and I've been doing a lot of stitching. I just finished up making a cat. This is what I made, and I'm gonna put it like in a show. I'm be weaving, and I do tapestry, I do stitching, everything else. Coffee. Please.
Hazelnut today.
Hey, please, can you do that?
Yeah, do you want it with creamer?
Yeah.
And 2 sugars?
2 sugars, please.
Okay, coming on up.
You're a very important person.
Yeah, I am very important. I'm also gonna be doing, tonight is art group that meets at the Gilliam. And then I have book club. This is what I'm working on. Emily, you need your help. I don't even know what I just did, but it fell through.
Oh, you know what? It's a good start. You can put your shuttle down and get your beater down. Your beater.
Oh.
And then get your weaving materials in the crank. And after that, I can come over and tighten. But you got it from here.
But I made a mistake. And it's supposed to be a crossbody bags. I followed the iPad, but I followed the numbers. I picked out the pattern, and we both picked out the colors. So this is what I do all day, like that. This is complicated, but I'm hanging in there. And then once we get it done, we bring it back in the back to get it ready. Right, Emily? That's how they're gonna look when I get it done, right, Miss Emily? And it's gonna be really nice. And then we also do tote bags, and we do, what are these? Are makeup bags?
Yep.
These are makeup bags. These are cards that we sell. End of August will be my 5th year here, so been working. How I knew how to weave is because I wanted to try it, and I learned it with training here. This is my first tapestry. This is what I do. All day, either weave or do tapestry. It's just been really, really nice to have. I love working here, and these are my favorite friends.
One of our missions, we hope, with OSG is that we're going to be able to get funders and governments and bureaucracies to understand that this very sustainable, very affordable, very inclusive, very replicable model could have better outcomes for people, not only throughout our state, but throughout the country and in other countries as well. Oh, really? Yeah, ask her about that. That's kind of, I have never.
That's the end of the stomping ground piece.
They did share, the producer, the team called us, we talked to them in the afternoon after this dropped. They had been completely overwhelmed by the response all through the world. It wasn't actually, it's America's propaganda tour, right? So it was all over, but they said they've never had such a response to it. And we're talking about OSG, but we're really talking about what we've accomplished. And I mean, I think we can't say that enough, that this is exciting. I mean, and some of our friends in the video, even in the last couple of years, their lives are better. They're better regulated. They're better with communication. They have community. We had a community dinner in Arlington on Wednesday night, and almost 40 people showed up. And people walk in, and someone says, "Sit with me, sit with me." Our friends have never had that in their lifetime, and most of us thought, as parents, I know that I never thought that would happen. So we feel really fortunate.
And 40 people go into a restaurant is an economic driver, correct?
Yeah.
They are also driving the economy. So it is magical, wonderful, and I know it doesn't happen all by itself. It appears it does. I know that, Donna, sometimes it feels like, you're there walking with them in the morning, walking them with them in the afternoon, and somehow it all happens, and it's incredible. And thank you for the work that you and Stomping Ground does for our community.
Thank you. We did hire an executive director. Loudoun County, fortunately, paid for that. They loved our vision and hope that we'll come out west. And we just brought on our second community builder, and we have hired a program director. So the parent, Class C, will be fortunately able to go back to their lives, whatever that was. But yeah, it's great. You missed our shout out too. But I'll tell you.
Did you? Oh, have to watch the whole thing all over. And on the Bertra announced at our executive committee meeting yesterday that on the 23rd at the Waypoint there will be a Stomping Ground yard sale, and then also folks from EC&D Independent Center where I work will be having a COVID vaccine clinic, COVID flu vaccine clinic, and it appears that we're going to have the COVID booster. So there's something to put on your calendars.
Where is that located?
The Waypoint at the church there. It's on King Street. I can send you the address.
Can you put, there's a link to the event, right? There's a link to the flyer. I don't have the email.
On the flyer too.
Okay, so next on the agenda is our chair's report that Bertra is going to share with us.
Hi, this is, I think a great segue from the video is recognizing that when we talk about inclusion and community support, it's not either or, it's not Wetmont or OSG. It's both and. And I think what we want is for the county to recognize that there are other models. We recognize the success of the Wetmont, but we also recognize the opportunities provided by the OSGs. I think as we go forward as a committee, we want to recognize and take advantage of opportunities to collaborate. The presentation of Wetmont was, I've never seen Wetmont. I'm wondering why Wetmont products aren't available for sale.
Arlington Weeks.
Arlington Weeks. I'm sorry, these two different. Yeah. Why aren't Arlington Weeks products available for sale? At the county? They are. They're on Etsy. Oh, are they? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And other places.
So not every idea is a novel idea, but
well, it is wonderful because they also, whatever they make, they get the proceeds from that product. So it's not like.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm from Arlington Weaves, and yes, they actually are the ones who design their own products and decide what they want to make, and then we sell. We do have an Etsy site, and you can come into the shop, and then we go around. We were just at George Mason. They have a show, and we did a pop-up there. So we do a lot of pop-ups this time of year. We're always at the county fair, but you can always come into the shop from 9 to 3 on Monday through Friday and buy directly from the participants.
Excellent.
And so they love to come in, and they get 100% of the proceeds of the sale.
That's awesome. Maybe next time we have a garage sale, we'll have the weavers have products available at our garage sale. And I think it's that kind of collaboration that we really want to encourage. And earlier there was some discussion about employment support. I think it was Carol's presentation. You know, there are organizations beyond Arlington County who are capable of doing this, and beyond our vendors. And one such as Social Grace, which is a small NGO, it's a partner organization. They are keen to provide employment readiness and employment training. So, you know, there's another organization, Javican, started by a parent who hires young adults with disabilities. My son works for them. They do power washing, yard cleaning, glass recycling. I asked her if we could get your grant for $50,000, what would you do with it? She said, I'd hire someone to run it. Okay. I think that the passion is there, certainly on the part of parents. We've got to figure out a way how to support organizations that are doing this work, the work that we need. We need to recognize them and partner with them and support them. Also want to put in a plug for Jake's Ice Cream. I just tell the story. We're at the ECNB event where 3 young adults made a pitch for Ford Foundation funding. And Jake's Ice Cream provided the refreshment. And as I ate my second cup of ice cream, I just thought, you know, why aren't we selling Jake's Ice
Cream? It's in the elementary schools because it was my daughter was aware of it at Barcroft. She works at Barcroft, and they have them there, and they provide it. So it may be spotty, but it is in some locations.
Well, I was booster president at WNL.
Yeah.
I personally drove to Chick-fil-A on game night and picked up, you know, bag and loads of Chick-fil-A. So, you know, the model exists. I think we have to figure out a way how to support these organizations who are supporting our kids. Yeah. All right? It would be a great inclusive opportunity for our kids to get to go to the games. Mm-hmm. So let's kind of think in those broad terms. So that's just a plug for you know, collaboration with our partner organizations. Of course, our vendors, you know, we hear regularly from them. Also wanted us as a committee to keep in mind our constituency. You know, when I first came to Arlington, my son was one of the youngest kids. Carol, thinking of there's another very active parent. Billingsley. Mm-hmm. They had the kids who were in school, and my kid was the young kid. So we have school-age kids, we have the kids who are transitioning, and we have older adults. Yes. And we can't lose sight of the needs, the multi-generational aspect of these disabilities. And I think that when we think about working groups, we need to have someone on this committee with a young kid. And I don't know that we do. I don't know everyone on the committee, but you know, the committee can't age with all of us. Okay, we've got to bring in, you know, parents who are, you know, in early intervention, you know, newly diagnosed, because that's our work too. And also keep in mind that, that families and caregivers are also our constituencies. When we met, Chair and I met with Amuna and the boys last week to prepare for this meeting. We agreed that our work should be undergirded with themes. And themes including inclusion, the boys for support for community inclusion. You know, we need to collaborate and elevate our work in that regard. And inclusion, you know, it's not only in the community, but also in the schools. Our young adults made the Ford Foundation pitch, and these are 25-year-old kids, young adults. And when they were asked, well, what's your passion? What do you want to change? And they didn't say, I want to get a job, or I want, you know, to be able to ride the bus. They said, we want inclusion in schools. And that is profound to me. And I just tell the story of my son, who we asked, when did you learn you had autism? He said, well, I overheard mom talking to Grandma. She said, it's something we have to manage. And I didn't know what it was because I didn't feel sick. I didn't think there was anything wrong. I said, when did you start feeling that there was something wrong? He said, when I couldn't stay in the classroom with the other kids. And he was fine. This is something that we really have to own this, because as we learn, as the kids get older, they carry this with them, that there's something wrong with them. And not only our kids have it, but neurotypical kids think the same thing. There's something wrong with those kids. And we've got to break that paradigm. And I think that if we keep inclusion as just a commonality, a common theme, a common thread, whether it's in the workforce, whether it's in the schools, whether it's in housing, we can certainly make progress and move the needle. Other themes is the housing issue. You know, another theme is employment. Another theme is benefits. You know, I think that if we can all agree, and this isn't a static list. You know, we want to know what some of you other committee members feel are just the pressing themes that should guide our work. But I think the benefits issue, you know, the Medicaid waiver, Lucy has been beating this drum since my son was a kid. You know, the need for the Medicaid waiver. You know, the punitive aspect of Medicaid needs to be addressed. And the idea that an individual can become eligible for Medicaid because of disability, but can lose Medicaid coverage because of financial differences, changes in their financial status is absurd. It's absurd. And I think, you know, we need to have some hard stops in terms of what we definitely will fight for, and how we can collaborate with our partners and make sure that the work of the committee is dynamic. And I was teasing the boys in Mammoon. I said, you know, this isn't a check-in. We need a list. We need some goals. And look forward to working with the committee and developing these goals and making sure that we're making progress.
Thank you, Bertram. We're so happy you're here, and I personally am just relieved that you're here. So thank you so much. Okay. Previously on our agenda was the approval of the minutes from the was it July meeting? From the July meeting. Have folks had a chance to read those minutes? If so, is there a motion to accept the minutes, or are there any corrections? Or any corrections identified? So is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
For a second? Without any corrections, the minutes are passed. I don't think we need to have a handbook for that. Okay, next on the agenda, if I can find it, Bertram, can you find it? I'm looking at my computer right
And
now.
Tom has some paper copies of the.
We're good.
Here, this is paper.
Okay.
Oh, I'm just, of the agenda, okay. Okay. Next, on the agenda, we have an opportunity to provide input to the Services Board on the state legislative priorities as well as budget priorities. Typically, last year we asked for the study for the CIP process. Carol shepherded that through. We got connected. We have not asked for additional staff in recent years, and so the voice, I'm wondering what is the current or projected situation for staff given the increases in numbers of people coming into the system and the increase, this 1,100% increase in Medicaid waivers? I don't know if you, I don't know if you're prepared to.
I was not prepared for that, that detailed question. But I am one never to turn down staff positions. So we are, I would certainly say that for our current year FY24, we are meeting from our growth. As many of you know, in 2016, when waivers were redesigned, the CSBs became the front door for individuals, all individuals with developmental disabilities, not just intellectual disabilities. And so we've seen a steady growth with that. Because we also have individuals that as they are coming to the CSB, regardless of the disability, whether it's autism, cerebral palsy, that are, one, opting to stay with the CSB for case management services, but that's also because they're given choice of where else they can go for case management. Well, so we are just continuing to see growth. We have been fortunate since 2016 to have received 3 additional FTEs for support coordination. I think the first 2 we received were in FY18, and then we received an additional in FY20 or 21. And so that's helped us in terms of being able to keep at the pace of the growth that we've been experiencing. We do, anticipate that as we get more waiver services, we have need for increased staffing just year to year. So I don't think that we are looking to add support coordinators every single year. But I don't want to speak without the data to show what the data actually says. So certainly, anecdotally, I would perhaps be inclined to say that we could certainly benefit from additional staffing, but I would have to look at, put that so that it's a data informed statement, if that makes sense. So that that you are not asking for something just because I think it's a great idea and we could use some additional staffing, but it needs to be driven by what the data shows. And when I say that, because factors that go into increasing caseloads are waivers. We recently just got 13 waivers. And so that's an increase of workload. We were able, fortunately, to spread them out across. In the past, we've had a lot more of our graduates, students aging out, getting waivers, and that wasn't necessarily the case this time. So we would previously have had like certain support coordinators or transition support coordinators see an increase, but it was actually evenly spread out. So we might have had, a support coordinator here or there getting 1 or 2. So it didn't have as significant of an impact across the board, but it does gradually go up. So it's really largely impacted by waiver slots. And we'll get, as Lucy mentioned, we anticipate 500 additional slots that the state will allocate in January. And so for Arlington, I would imagine that probably will come out to about 9 or 10 additional slots.
So can possibly Bertrand and I meet at the next coordination meeting, get some numbers from you and Maimuna for our.
So I would say yes, I would request, as has been Deborah's request, is that if you're going to ask us for data, which is perfectly fine, that you just submit that request directly to her and she'll direct us on that information.
Okay, and then Bertrand and I may need to reschedule that meeting because Bertrand's going to be out, but we want to.
It's also my birthday.
Oh,
that's good.
Okay, let's reschedule the meeting. Are there other county budget priorities that folks think that we should consider? And this is open to anyone in the table or on the online.
Sherry, can you clarify when you say, are there any other county budget things? Is this topics for us to discuss over the next year or exactly?
Nope. It's potential asks for the county board
for
FY25.
So I think we keep going
Staff
back.
asked to submit their budgets. And then last night, Bertrand and I were grilling Deborah about, so when are the committees supposed to ask for their budget items? And she said anytime soon. So
I mean, I still think the capacity issue, which, Carol mentioned in the open comment for future people that are coming out of schools, I think we really need to keep pushing on that issue to make sure that there can be more, options in the county. I don't know if that's considered an ask or not, but I just think the capacity issue is key.
And ongoing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's ongoing. I mean, I don't think you just address it 1 year and that's it. I think that's sort of where we are, why we're in the spot we're in now. It's sort of a constant.
It's ongoing and it's
ongoing. It increases every year.
So students are being identified at younger ages, so there are more people graduating. I think we need to be well aware of those future numbers 5 years from now because everything takes a while.
Yes.
So, LaVoice, you do have 5-year projections for school age populations, don't you? Yes. Okay, so
Can we request those kinds of numbers to have a sense of who's coming down the pike or not?
Yeah, they request.
I'm writing it down, Lucia. Thank you. One of the other that from Carol's information that she provided, there's a couple of questions here. One is how many current people waiver, not on waiver, are waiting for day in employment placements? And I know you don't have that information off the top of your head, but it sounded as if folks are sitting at home waiting for something.
I would think waiting, perhaps probably have people with preferences, programs that they are, their preference that they may not be have, but we always offer.
LaVoice, sorry to interrupt. We can't hear you. I think maybe just because you're at the far end of the table, I don't know where the mic is. Can you just speak up or project a little bit more, please?
I was asking, you were saying you don't really have people waiting at home. They're waiting for their preferred programs, but where are they waiting?
Right, so just to clarify that, there are perhaps some, I won't say that we don't have any individuals waiting at home. Some of the individuals perhaps that are waiting, it's a choice of a particular program that they want that is not available or not having capacity at this time. We have one individual I know of who wants to go back to a program that they were at pre-COVID, and that program doesn't have capacity to support that particular individual. And so he is engaged in other meaningful activities and thus otherwise being supported. But overall, when we have someone and we refer them to programs, we're giving them choices. So more than just one. And it might not always be the choice of the program that they want to attend. For example, we're looking to open an employment readiness program, and we've had a few people, individuals, their families that were interested in that program, but that program is not available just yet because it's not open. And so they have opted to go into other programs. It might not have been their preference, but it's still their choice in a sense to do that. So I don't want to give the impression that there's just, people just sitting at home because they don't have some place to go for lack of programs. Now, that does not mean that there's not a capacity issue, and I'll get into that in my presentation. I would be the first to say there absolutely is a capacity issue, particularly when you look at our projected growth. The reason that we started having the conversations, several years ago is because we knew what the numbers said in terms of students aging out of services, that if we didn't act now or act then we were not going to have the capacity for our students to attend programs in Arlington County. And so that was another thing that we wanted to shift away from, is people not having the choice, and therefore they're going to programs outside of the county. So it's building capacity, and it's specifically building capacity in Arlington County. Not sure if I've answered your question.
That is. So we have, so far we have potential service coordination staff, support coordination staff, a desire to make sure that the folks who are seeking a program are doing that. I know that that public comment is never supposed to be a time to deal with individual service issues, but when I kind of back out and listen to this person are looking for Arlington placement, are looking for, and have been turned away from Arlington placements, looking for job supports, are wondering if they're not on the waiver, do they have behavioral supports, do they have other meaningful day program supports that aren't center-based? And is the answer yes to that?
There's a lot of questions in there.
Oh, I know. It's just that between gross numbers and some of the information Carol's bringing to us, it just feels like there's that folks are not getting their needs met in Arlington.
I don't think we're offering what a lot of, I think Carol said it or you said it, LaVoice, that the active cases are going up, but the people that are picking, I can look at Gillian Place, which by the way was 8 set aside units for people with disability. I counted before I came today. We're now up to 14. If we keep it up, it's not going to be inclusive. It'll be next group home on Columbia and Pike. But when I look at those people, it seems to be like the older cohort is, kind of are all in, day support programs. And the younger people are looking for something different. They're looking for more inclusive options. They're not looking for 40 hours. So I think as we look forward for solutions, I totally agree with you. I don't think there's a lot of people that are sitting home. No one's serving them. I think there are people that want something that maybe is not here in Arlington. It doesn't really exist anywhere. And that's the puzzle we need to figure out for our families and to follow what, the ADA promised and what Department of Justice wants us to do. We need to really find inclusive housing, jobs, and education. And it's hard to do with those other two if we started out not having inclusion. So I don't get the sense that anyone feels like you guys are not doing your job. It's like there's this movement of people that are like, we're not looking for the white van that takes someone for 40 hours a day. I don't think that, that's what your numbers, it looks like, are showing. It's not a dissatisfaction with the amazing work you're doing, but what is that thing that we can offer more of, that we will figure out, and we will figure out as a committee. And I think that is the exciting challenge.
Well, I will get I don't want to jump into my presentation as well, but I think it's also looking for diversity in programming and choice of what someone does, for the day. you and I are the four of us, we started talking about just some, out of the box thinking, particularly where employment is concerned as well. We do see a shift in, in people seeking employment, as well. And that doesn't mean that we abandon day support, and we certainly need to continue to do that because there's interest in that. And people have the opportunity of also working on skills and skill development that could potentially lead to employment opportunities as well. So I think balancing that and really moving towards more of a shift that gives people flexibility in what they do during the day and how they do it and the resources.
I was just wondering, because, and I know DARS is separate from all of this, but, what is the waitlisting situation? Because job coaching especially, the number one thing you're hearing from DARS with any of these groups, or I don't know how it is with local, is waitlist. You want to see someone's waitlist. You can't provide any support. You can't provide any diversity of, job options or group home. If or support if someone's been waitlisted with, from a coach, and that's a huge part of it for these type of things. And I think these are really great ideas. But, with, especially if there's an employment component and that, goes off of the job coach, and the person's going to be sitting there and they're being told, well, we don't know when you'll see that person, or, there's no estimate. We'll get back to you in a couple of months, and pat on the back, maybe do some volunteering, and maybe, do the day program or something. That can be very, stressful and tough. So I am curious, because I don't know how all of this works, with Arlington and DARS and all of that. So I'm curious how that works. I'm sorry if I interrupted. I wasn't trying to. And the other thing is, I am very curious about how up to date these job resources are. My experience has been with people I've talked to is that some of the advice that is being given is really not up to date with the current technology and the current way that job employers work. And that is a very big concern to me. And I'm very curious if there is a push on working with these, and I hope I didn't go off topic too much, but just working with these job coaching groups and that on making sure that as we diversify our outlook on not just getting a job, but careers and passion and all of this stuff, that they're also, giving the right advice on resume building, on, interview structure, on that, because, a lot of these companies are changing their gears on how they work. So it's just kind of a thought, and I'm so sorry if I went.
No, Joe, I appreciate your comments. I think though that we don't have to figure this out. The PCG recommended hybrid day / employment services. They recommended they be community based, and that they include skill development. So I don't think we want to go to the county and ask for increased funding for expanded transition services. We want to ask specifically for what the PCG has recommended. And I think that this new Sequoia day program is not compliant with Olmsted. I think it's grandfathered, or it exists. But I think we have to hold our leaders' feet to the fire on what's legally required. No, the law requires it. Our consultants have recommended it. I think we can agree this is the direction we should go. So when we speak to the county, I think we need to specifically, as Joe just mentioned, what specifically needs to be done. We specifically want to see programs in Arlington. I don't understand, I'm new, but I understand why Arlington would pay to send our kids to Alexandria. So I think if we imagine the world we want for our kids, it would be community-based, accessible, including skills development, Now, after so many years of life skills in Arlington Public Schools, now it's on VHS to provide skills.
Right. Well,
Okay. So I think that if we can be specific in terms of our ask, you know,
so
as
if
opposed to
I
world
can,
peace, you know,
yeah, but just a comment where hybrid is concerned, because that is something that's actually already happening. It's not something that needs to be embedded in a contract per se, in an RFP per se. We, for example, have 4 individuals that are sharing a spot, spaces at Arlington Weaves, et cetera, for example. They work and they also go to the day program. So they're already doing a hybrid of activities. There are, I don't know how many, not many, but there's not a restriction per se in terms of number of people, but we have people that attend the CIC, for example, that don't go 5 days a week. They go a few days a week and then they might volunteer at other places so that they're able to do other things. So the hybrid is already happening. And I don't think that that's something that you necessarily need additional resources. That's not a barrier in terms of doing hybrid. And so we are certainly encouraging continuation of that because it gives people options and it's giving choices. So just because we don't necessarily sit and talk about it all the time, I don't want you to assume that it's not happening already and that we're not encouraging it and supporting it and continuing to happen as well as we develop programs.
And I just want us to use the guidelines that we have. Let's start with what has been recommended, right?
And we are.
Does that need to be reaffirmed anywhere? I mean, just reestablish that is currently what's going on and be continued. Does it mean it?
And this is specifically for Arlington County.
That's what I mean.
Budget ask.
Right.
So as we're looking for budget ask for fiscal year 2025, so that's beginning next July. What would you ask?
No, sorry, I just.
No. I'm just calling it back to what our on this part is to consider what would be the ask.
I think we should ask for community-based services in Arlington.
Okay.
And I don't know how to cost it out, but.
Well, part of the cost, for instance, one of the costs was for the report that came out and said, this is what we want to do. So theoretically, there could be an ask for somebody or some people to go and start developing these, or we can ask for funding for an experimental program or something that an employer wants to go after, to partner with someone to provide the day employment support like Social Graces does, for instance, for hiring people with disabilities in the program with an ability to pull it out. So,
and you've got some comments, Carol.
Okay, so I have Moira is first. Oh, Carol is first, and then Moira.
Sherry, listening to all of this, I'm wondering about group-supported employment, which is not something that we've discussed tonight, but I did sense, I think, in the meeting with the families that there were some individuals who want to work and want to be out in the community, but we prefer to do it, as part of a small enclave. And I know we've discussed that along the way, but I did not see any mention of group-supported employment in the RFP. So I wonder if perhaps, and I think in terms of budget impact and funding, smaller size, one of the drawbacks of group-supported employment is it's hard to find. If you have an enclave of 6 people and a manager, it's hard to find an employer who wants that many additional people on site in it. It makes it less inclusive because it's hard to integrate those folks. So at one point we were talking about, excuse me, we were talking about smaller size group supported employments of maybe 3 or so 3 with a supervisor who would then go out in the community and do various kinds of work. Is that something that is on the table as we're talking about these options? It's an expanded capacity and flexibility and so forth, because I think there are definitely people who want it.
So the voice, this is my curiosity, because I ran into someone from ServiceSource who said she was on a contract to develop small group employment sites in Arlington. With a BD contract. Did I misunderstand what she was
That's not through developmental services. I believe that is something through our employment center, and it might be for people with disabilities. I don't know that that's specific to developmental disabilities only. But they do have an agreement that's through our economic employment. And I can look into that to get more information about that. But that's not, now they do have, ServiceSource does have the contract to operate our group supported employment.
But this was an expansion of group supported employment.
Right, so that you're talking about something different that's through EID, economic independence.
This is all curiosity. So, I mean, we could theoretically ask for them to do, because they're more nimble in being able to do that, right?
But they're already being paid to do it. So I don't know if that would be a
Not
budget ask.
specifically solely for people with developmental disabilities. No.
But we can ask for them to do this for developmental disabilities. Right?
It might be helpful to have, I can get more information and perhaps have them come and present to you all on what they are currently doing and figure out, are there gaps? Because I don't know that any of us around here, including myself, knows enough about that to say what they are and are not doing. And I wouldn't want to make any assumptions and speaking of that, since I'm not as familiar with it.
And of course, Deborah is somewhere.
Well, no, it's not, because that's not a program that's under Deborah. That's not a program that's under the CSB. She might not be as familiar with that. She could be, but she might not be. Mona, are you familiar with that?
Repeat the question, please.
The employment program that the employment division,
economic and the EID, economic independence.
Isn't that under Deborah?
Not directly, no.
So the employment program under the Economic Independence Division is under Anita, and my colleague who is the division director is Brooke Hammond Perez.
And so I was suggesting, Mona, that it might be helpful if the committee was interested in doing something to expand that group supported work, that the employment work that they are doing through that under the contract, our agreement that they have with ServiceSource, that perhaps have someone from EID come and speak about that in terms of identifying any opportunities for employment for individuals with developmental disabilities. Because as I understand, that's looking at employment for people with disabilities and not just developmental disabilities.
Correct.
So, as we're talking about budget requests, and because of the timing, I'm interested in requesting from Anita a meeting with them, and wonder who here, Joe, are you interested in joining that meeting? Anybody else on the committee interested in joining a meeting such as this?
I can easily set that up, Sherry, just let me know. Sherry? I don't know if they can hear me.
Well, no, I think we have time.
I can easily help to facilitate a meeting with Economic Independence, so just let me know.
Okay, we have time if for the next Listen and Learn, we have a part of that that's a meeting. So Moira.
Oh,
And
okay.
if someone's interested in this concept and would like to join, well, actually, I think, what is the rule? Only 2 of us on the committee can do community business? So only Joe and I can do it.
I'll do it too.
Well, there's only 2 people that are allowed under the,
Oh, okay.
except Moira, you're not a voting member, so you can come.
Right. Okay.
So I will add to the list.
I just had a question about the RFP that we're developing or going to develop.
The RFP topic is a topic on the agenda that we're going to, the RFP for the CIC?
No, well, we were talking about crafting the kind of day, like somebody is going to volunteer a few days and go to CIC a few days. I also kind of wonder about if their volunteer schedule is such that it's like a half a day and they're going to be going to the CIC every day, but half the day is going to be devoted to volunteering. I'm wondering if for this proposal that if we've factored in transportation, and will there be a budget for transportation?
As part of the day support committee program that LaVoice is going to talk about later in this agenda.
Yeah, okay.
Because this is, we're talking about budget asks right now. So
right.
That might be a follow-up after listening to LaVoice, but right now we're talking about budget asks for 2025. So, okay. Any legislative asks that anyone wants to forward right now in terms of concepts? And right now we're just trying to generate ideas. We're not saying this is going to be it, or just because someone raised their hand means that that's going to be one of our legislative asks of the General Assembly. But yeah, there was 2. One is the Arlington County budget. The other are the asks for the General Assembly. The CSB meets with the delegation shortly after the new elections. And during that presentation, we ask them usually for what's of interest on our agenda, what we want them to take to Richmond.
Sure, John. For the General Assembly, I think the real big thing is actually the question I was going to ask Lucy, which popped off, was the Medicaid with the legislative priority that RCAT, where you could join dual enroll in Medicaid Works if you're on the duty waiver. That did not go through.
That did not go through.
It does not sound like it did.
That did not go through, and just on a personal note, I plan to start drawing down Social Security next year, which means that Pete's going to have to reduce one of his part-time jobs and quit the other.
And it's, I mean, I can say.
So he's going to get a go-to-a-day program because he's not going to have anything else to do. Yeah. What's that?
Benefits planning under the waiver.
I've already studied this very carefully.
And I can say, as an individual disability receives, waiver, and that with benefits plan, I've had to go through that. To make this, solution would have benefited me greatly.
Exactly.
It's affected, my job options. So, this is something, it's a little personal for me as well. But, the people you talk to that when we talked to before, this is a pretty big crisis, it seems like, for the state, for the county. So this would be something really big.
And then I'll also add the parents as caregivers for their children, right? And we still have the funding. I mean, if we have a caregiver crisis.
Yeah.
We have a caregiver crisis. There's no one to do, well, a provider crisis, because there's no one to provide supported employment services. Because
there aren't enough
staff. So, Okay.
The other thing we have a workforce shortage, and that's what's driving a lot of this, unfortunately.
The other thing I just wanted to add, I'm so sorry, was
keep going.
Touch on that is like with DARS, especially providers, it's like, you know, we have just it's one individual for one area. There's you know a very small amount of individuals who have huge amounts of caseloads, and this limits their ability to get back to individuals. It limits their ability to, I think, really have an understanding of what's going on. And there seems to be kind of this rush to get, especially then also with job coaches, an individual job. And it seems like there's not, you know, we can, you know. So anyway, long story short, I don't know if there's something there of trying to get more funding to hire more individuals, or I'm just thinking out loud.
So, Joe, I also think that DARS needs more employees, but I would rather ask, because this is what the Arlington delegation, what the Arlington are going to bring to the General Assembly, and since DARS is outside of, I mean, I see it, but then in terms of not in general, I mean, on the Medicaid waiver side, where most of our people are, we don't have people that can provide the services. So that's a problem. We have people who want to work like you who can't work because we don't have Medicaid works. It passed the General Assembly.
But there's also, I mean, other parts that DARS provides. I mean, some other services that do provide.
Which are part of the workforce. Yeah. Okay. Anything else, hands? Because we have other things on it. We have so much.
Quick question, Sherry. I was wondering if the question that Ms. Saucedo was asking was that if we could put down and ask for increased budget for transportation services. So as we're thinking about building out community capacity, like if we do that, then do we have the transportation in order to meet that need? So like we can't really do one without the other. Is that what you were asking, Ms. Saucedo? It's about just including transportation ask along with the ask for community?
Yes, in general. Yep.
Yeah. Is that an
just
option?
looking because we've just turned back a lot of transportation money because of the transfer to motive care. And that would be county provided transportation.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it depends on the needs of the individual, I would assume, and their preferences. I'm just kind of wondering, I'm kind of keeping in mind the fact that transportation is always a very complex issue, a complex service, and you know, I'm wondering when you start talking about hybrids and changing of services, whether we have factored in the transportation needs.
Well, if we stay locally and we have more accessible job sites, then
it's less of a problem.
But I mean, I gotta say, we see our friends like they're doing, you know, they are starting to take the bus. There are things they could do if it is local. Like, you know, our friends that are going to Herndon, no, it's complicated and it's expensive. But we should be looking at jobs that some people can walk to. I mean, that is the reasonable thing.
That should be that.
Yep.
And then this goes away because that's all part of being in the community.
Here's something that might be just a little bit out of the box, which is we have, you know, we switched to motive care, and motive care may or may not be meeting the needs of everybody. And it's not an option for everybody, but it could take off a little bit of the transportation pressure to provide people with an alternative for Uber or Lyft reimbursement. Is that a possibility right now? voice? If I'm a county person and I'm not, I don't want to drive my person to Chantilly anymore, can I just turn in all my Uber receipts for sending my person to and from Chantilly?
Turn your receipts into.
I don't know, that's my point.
And I don't know where you would turn those receipts into.
That it wouldn't be to La Voice. I mean, because it seems to me that it would be a lot cheaper if I'm a county funded person to, instead of going, I mean, right now, in terms of Arlington not meeting people's needs and preferences, people hate the van so much that they are driving their people all over to the ends of the earth, 45 minutes, here, and I know for me it was like, they may only be on that trip for 45 minutes, but in rush hour, I'm now on that trip for 2.5 hours because I not only had to drive out there, but I had to come back through traffic. So I'd rather pay an Uber driver or taxi to do it. It would still be cheaper than Arlington provided transportation. Wouldn't it? I mean,
no, because if you're talking about a route, for example, under our existing structure.
No, I'm saying that you have the route. You have, under the existing structure, you have the route, but that route is being tolerated by some people, an hour and a half, hour and 45-minute ride, according to what Carol told us today, one way. Or it's just is not working so much that as a parent, now I have to drive my person back and forth because the whole transportation thing is untenable. And I know we have a lot of parents that are driving their people back and forth because they don't like motor care. So in terms of folks for whom we're not meeting the needs, we still have a lot of people who are doing crazy things on the road. Get their people to where they need to be because they're either afraid of the current fixed routes or it's just not working.
Yeah, and I think that argument can be used as we make the ask for Arlington-based programs that are smaller in community.
So you think that we should be pushing for just, if we're going to do something, it should be for Arlington-based.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And yes, we need transportation. We're not going to leave people without transportation, but that's not aspirational. No. Aspirational is our young people being able to find work and employment support in Arlington. And Arlington County should be doing it. Maybe we should ask Arlington County to do it.
Which that's what STAR is
Isn't that for people 55 or 65?
Oh man, STAR transportation.
No, it's not. It also includes.
It's for people with developmental disabilities can take the taxi.
Yeah, I just kind of think that increasingly we should look toward that horizon of keeping our kids in Arlington.
That's a principle
that should be our goal.
I think so. Okay. Unfortunately, some of our kids ride a van 2 hours to Chantilly, but that's not the future. And I think we should reiterate that.
We know they're vulnerable, and it's not inclusive, and so that could be our goal.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a great underlying theme for whatever we're asking is services.
Yeah.
Why aren't there jobs at every elementary school dining room? Why isn't there a job at every county building? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Why doesn't every library hire? I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Why aren't we training our young people at the trade center?
That's what Bertrand.
We have a trade center. Why isn't that part of, we have a transition person. Why isn't that part of, the transition? You know, the resources and they exist here, and if we can't do it in Arlington,
it cannot be done anywhere in the country.
And I think that word future future, it's so important that you're using them. You don't know what the future's going to look like in 5 years economically. Things are changing so fast, so we're positioning ourselves now to adapt to what's changing. I think it's really wise.
No, taking
And it's going to
advantage of a
be
day program is not
right,
the future.
and
No,
it's going
that's-
to be community-based.
Okay, so in terms of a principle that we want to adopt, Bertra, since you're so articulate, do you want to make a motion that we adopt a principle for our requests this year? Or can you work on that since you're such a good?
Well, let's work on it. I think maybe we'll just start an email. Can we have email conversations outside of the meeting? Because it's kind of hard to brainstorm.
Two people at a time can, but if folks can send their ideas about principle to Bertra, only to Bertra, then Bertra can send responses to everybody else. Yeah, Lucia?
Sorry, I'm just mentioning the time. It's 5:46, and we haven't heard from Voice. And I just want to be sure we get LaVoice's report on the short and long-term plan, employment, and group day support, so we don't miss out on that information.
Okay, the group day support is something that only comes once every 5 years. So, LaVoice, we have 13 minutes for you to do what you can. Thank you.
Well, I can answer questions. I will not be able to do my whole presentation in 13 minutes. I'm not going to try. So if there are specific questions that you or things you want me to talk about, plus I also have some staff updates. I wanted to be sure to talk about the opening of the housing choice vouchers, which has not
Did we go to 6-10
12
13,
plus years.
yeah, it's
13 years.
exciting.
So I definitely wanted time to talk about that. And there's some updates regarding Urban Street I wanted to share and the employment readiness as well. So take your pick.
Well, Boyce, you had a prepared presentation. Was it prepared? Like, is it a PowerPoint?
Presentation. I mean, it's a PowerPoint presentation. So the way I do PowerPoint presentations is I don't put a lot of detail necessarily. So it's to have a presentation. I don't like to have a presentation where you're reading something.
Hi.
So.
Would that be something that you could not share that with everybody and not give us a presentation? Is that right?
You can give us those other updates. You just.
I would, yes.
Yeah, we need all those updates, so let's start there.
Okay.
My
And I'm
recommendation.
going to put in, let me figure out where the chat. I would like to put in the chat the links in multiple languages for the opening of the Housing Choice Voucher Program. So there's a link. It opens tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Maimona, do you have the close date for that?
10 days.
10 days.
10 days.
And so we're trying to get the word out to individuals we support, particularly those that are currently receiving some type of housing assistance, such as an Arlington housing grant, to apply. There's minimal documentation requirements when someone first goes in to complete the application process. And so if you have listservs or something that you were able to share these with, that would be great. And also just over the next 10 days, so not just tomorrow morning as well. Maimona, anything specifically that you'd like to add where this is concerned? I know we were talking about it earlier today, so I could possibly be missing something important.
No, it's just really encouraged that if you know of anyone or anyone want to pass it on to, anyone that has been waiting in the wings, because we know that housing is a real challenge around the region, let alone the state. This is an opportunity.
And if anyone needs individual assistance, that's available. Once they close it, they will only accept a random sample of 5,000 people. So just because you are signing up for the wait list doesn't mean that you're going to get housed.
Is there a paper form?
Yes, go to the link in the chat.
Do you mean literally a paper form?
There is a paper form, yes.
Well,
Yes.
I'd have to print it, like you want a paper to leave.
So like if people were signing up, other people give paper form.
Yeah, yes, there.
Yeah, I would strongly encourage using the link if at all possible.
But also Vanessa Street. Person I sent you to.
Oh.
But it's still electronic though, right?
They'll have paper for people who.
Okay.
I attended the workshop.
Okay.
Okay, what else?
Okay, I am excited to share, we have a provider for Irving Street. It will be after a rather robust and competitive RFP process. The county has selected Uncircle as the provider for Irving Street group home. They are formerly Lutheran Family Services. And Arlington will be a new location for them. They have in recent years branched out into Northern Virginia. So we're excited to be partnering with them. Specifically, they have some excellent experience in supporting individuals in group home settings, individuals with exceptional medical support needs. So they bring that expertise that we're very excited about, as well as the behavior. So right, that the medical part is critical for the that we have for this home. So we're getting started with them. We're going to have our initial kickoff meeting with the provider on Monday, the 18th, to start moving on getting the home license, getting the home, all of the individuals referred. We've identified, I want to say 4 or 5 individuals that we're going to be referring for the lower apartment for exceptional behavior. And we've got about 7 or 8 people that we're referring for the main level of the home for medical. 7 people, I think, for medical.
For 4 spots.
For 3 spots. Because one of the spots is regional, as you may recall.
That's right. And that will be, if that's open, will a local person be able to go into it?
It will not be open. If someone, the way that the agreement from the state is worded, is that in the event that someone from the region is not identified, then it would still go to the state for someone coming out of a training center or needing to come out of a training center. So it wouldn't come back to us.
And that's one of the 5.
That is one of the 4.
And
One
so
of the bids will be for respite.
Right, the respite.
So we are no longer contracting with Artwood for respite because not anticipating that this was going to take this long to open the home, but we will be providing respite in this particular setting. Let's see. We are, just today, we received the temporary certificate of occupancy for the home, so that's very exciting, which means we can actually now go into the home. I mean, we've been doing that anyway, but we could do things, for example, conduct tours. So some of the individuals and their families that we've been considering, we haven't been able to take them into the home, into the setting, to look at the space because we didn't have the certificate of occupancy. So we're able to do, things such as that. When we have the kickoff meeting next Monday, we'll be able to actually have that at the home, so we can actually conduct some business and other things there now that that is happening. We are having an open house. Linda's actually one for the open house, and it is limited attendance in terms of who we are able to invite, just because the home can only hold so many people. So the voting members of the DD committee will be included on that, as well as members of the CSB in the invitation. We will otherwise be having other times and opportunities for people, neighbors, and so forth to be able to come and see the home. So we'll share that when that becomes available, when we know what that's going to look like. We also are, speaking of Jake's Ice Cream, just to mention, we're actually using Jake's Popcorn for the open house. So we're going to have, they're putting together these sort of little gift bags for us, and we'll have some information about Jake's Popcorn as well in that business, so that for individuals that are coming to participate in the open house and other things that we do there, that'll be something that as a takeaway, and also just sharing information about the business. So we're excited about that. We also are excited to announce that we have selected a provider for the employment readiness program, and that will be Service Source. That was also following a competitive bidding process as well. And that was just announced on Friday, so we haven't yet confirmed and set up our kickoff planning efforts there, but we're going to be moving very soon to at least get started with a licensing is concerned on that program as well. And we've had a temporary certificate of occupancy for that space for a while now. And let's see. We have, also excited to share, we have a Carmel Bourbano, who many of you know as one of our support coordinators. She's been a support coordinator with us for about 10 years now. And she was recently promoted to the program manager that was left vacant by David Rothman. So we are actively recruiting for a support coordinator to fill her vacancy. So we are fully staffed other than that one vacancy. And as some of you know, I know that I won't put her on the spot, but Melissa Jesserum, who is our new employment habilitation contracts manager, is, I think, still on the call, maybe. So she, came on, joined us, I think in June. She might have had to jump off. So we are excited to have her on board. I am especially excited to have her on board because I did that job for 8 months, and I am pleased to no longer be doing it. So those are my updates. And if I may just quickly, I just want to jump through my PowerPoint real quickly to see if there's anything that I just want to highlight real quickly.
One pressing question is, what is the additional capacity?
Oh, so I'll talk about the RFPs. I'll just direct questions there. So we did release the RFP for the Community Integration Center. It closes on the 28th or 29th of September, I believe, open for about 40 days. The current capacity for the center-based community days program remains at 55, and we're limited in what we can do there because there are requirements per the fire marshal. We actually went as high up as we could actually go a few years ago, which is why we have to build capacity in other ways. And we also don't just want to keep growing that program to be larger and larger and larger, because we're trying to shift and train towards smaller programs and smaller set settings, because people are just better served in smaller settings. And so what we have are seeking in the RFP, we added 15 slots for community-based day support. And we also added 2 additional sites. So we would have the Woodmont Center, as most people refer to the program. And then we are actively working internally in the county with our real estate bureau and identifying additional county spaces for the additional sites. These sites would support upwards of 18 to 22 individuals across both of those sites. And we are, as we have done with other RFPs, we don't tend to just dictate directly to say, do X, Y, and Z, because we're not the experts in terms of doing that. So part of the response that we're looking for, and that we will also weigh, is what providers are communicating back to us in terms of program models for the additional sites as well as the existing site for that matter.
Is a requirement for hybrid or community-based options?
Well, we added 15 slots for community-based.
We're talking about 70, but maybe 100 people. I don't know how many people total, but why is there not a requirement for community-based for everybody else?
It is a requirement, and that's actually a requirement for day support in general. So any day support program, the existing day support program for the CIC, for Arlington, et cetera, for that matter, MBLE, Millwood, there's always has been the requirement for community integration for individuals accessing resources within the community. So they're not really allowed to have a program where 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, they're continuously in the day support setting. So they are actually already doing a lot of community integration and community-based in existing center-based programs. The community-based is really more 100% of the majority community-based. And that doesn't mean being out in the elements, but it's not based, it's not center-based. It's not being at a center all day.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt the meeting. There is a KK that says that she has an accommodation request that she needs to formally ask during a meeting. So, KNN, can you speak to that? Can you take off your mic? I mean, you're on mute. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Hi, how are you all?
Good.
First of all, I would like to thank you for allowing me the 2 minutes to formally do this in the way that the DOJ requires me to do so due to my volunteer affiliation there. I would like to make a formal request of an accommodation due to my disability. I received ID or DD services through Arlington County to apply. I do have the paperwork. I can follow through off of line with the appropriate person. I do have to ask in the way that is public and letting you know that I do support other justice agencies. And I would love the chance to give my application orally. And then you guys, but I'm new to Arlington, and thank you so much for your time.
Are you applying for DD services?
Yes, I already received DD and ID services, ma'am. I have a social communicative disorder, so I have the adaptive skills of a 7-year-old in social situations, but I also have my PhD in public policy, right? So I have a very unique vantage point, and I would love to be able to contribute positively to this space like I did before my relocation here.
Terrific. Well, welcome. And I put my email in the chat. If you can send me an email, I would appreciate hearing more from you.
Absolutely. I will send that to you, and then you just let me know what to do. Thank you so much for trusting me with the 2 minutes. I had to do it a formal way.
Welcome. And
Thank you. I'm just a volunteer. It's just they make sure that I have to share it.
I love you. Thank you. And unfortunately, by law, we have to end the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay.
Carol has her hand raised for a long time.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, since we didn't get to LaVoice's PowerPoint today, because it was so late in the agenda, if we could do it first on the October agenda.
We will be able to address that via email because the meeting has to end. So we'll address it.
Yeah, I just think we're.
I understand. I understand your frustration.
Yeah, I'm not sure you really do, but.
Thank you.